everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is... hang on. There's some serious sparkle going on in the show tonight. Let me back it up just a little bit so it's not so in your face. Whew, that's crazy. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can fix this for you guys, because that's... Even me, that's bothering here. So let's... that's worse. How's this? A little bit better. That... Well, the mic stand's still sparkling, but at least not everything is sparkling. So welcome to the show. This is, I don't know. It didn't look that bad in the previews. This is Monday, March 24th, 2025. As you know, an election has been called yesterday. The Governor General dropped the writ, as they say, and we're going to the polls on Monday, April the 28th. Now, there's going to be some people out there who say, I don't want to vote. Voting doesn't matter. It's all rigged anyway. It's pre-selected. And, okay. You might be right. We don't know until we know. You cannot rig a federal election in Canada because they don't use voting machines in a federal election. In provincial elections, municipal elections, they use those Dominion vote tabulators. But in federal, it's all paper, pencil, hand count. So they can't rig it like that. But they can rig it with, polls. Have you seen the polls lately? It's crazy, right? The Liberals somehow, amazingly, have shot into a lead, and there's a reason for that. You can find out more. I think a couple of days ago, Northern Perspective did a thing, so go and check out their channel. They did a deep dive investigation into one of these new polling companies that just popped up out of nowhere a couple of weeks ago and have been spitting out polls daily ever since March the 12th. And apparently, they're somehow connected to the Liberal Party of Canada, at least they used to be, and possibly China, the PRC, the People's Republic of China. So that could be one of the ways that there's election interference going on right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Make it too big to rig. So if you're right and elections don't matter, we'll find out. We'll find out. But the only way to find out is flooding the polls on April 28th. And if you want to vote before that, make sure you get a hold of Elections Canada. You're going to be getting some kind of mail pretty soon in the next week or so. Your enumeration card, as they call it, right? But if you don't, make sure you go to the Elections Canada website, electionscanada.ca, and say, hey, how come I haven't got my thing? How come you want to get your advanced voting card? Then go ahead and do it like that. Go to Elections Canada. Whatever you do, wherever you happen to be in the next month now, you got to make sure to get your ballot in. Because if you're right and everything is rigged, we're going to find out if we get a 90% voter turnout and the Liberals still win. Wouldn't that be amazing if the Liberals somehow still won with a 90% voter turnout? Then we would know. As it is right now, the average Canadian election gets roughly 60, maybe 65% voter participation. I think some of the high ones, maybe 70%. And that's not good enough. We got about 27, maybe 28 million election eligible people in this country, and we got to go out and we got to do it. It's not just our right to vote. It is our duty to vote. I was given this lecture by my grandfather when I was a little kid. He was very adamant about it. You make sure that no matter what happens, you get out. That's why they give you half a day off on election day, to get you out and damn well vote. So when you turn of age, you go out and you do that. Just make sure you vote conservative. My grandfather was a big conservative. My dad was an NDP. There was a lot of interesting conversation that happened at the dinner table because my grandpa lived with us in his older years. But that's enough about me. So how are they doing? How are all the leaders doing on day one of the campaign? Well, some are doing better than others. Some held rallies yesterday. Some tried to hold rallies yesterday and didn't do so well. Mark Carney, notably, in Newfoundland, when they wouldn't let fishermen into his rally in St. John's. We've got some video of that coming up. We also have some video of Pierre Poilievre's rally yesterday in North York. We're going to see what Jagmeet Singh is up to. He made his announcement yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. It doesn't matter. He's irrelevant. What about Yves-Francois Blanchet, the leader of the Bloc Québécois? He has some very interesting things to say. Because what happened today... Generally, every year, there's 3 debates, 2 in French, 1 in English. Why is that? Well, because there's an extra one added in French every year. I think it's the TVA French language debate. And this year they were asking each party to pay $75,000 because the company who owns TVA didn't have enough money to cover it. And it's become an event, right, every year. And it's actually managed to swing elections in Quebec. This is how Justin Trudeau won his majority in 2015 because he won over Quebec with the TVA debate. So this year they're asking each party to spend $75,000 for production costs. And when the Liberals were approached, Mark Carney said, oh, yeah, I don't see why not. And then because it was asked in French, he misunderstood the question and answered improperly, at least not what his handlers wanted him to say. That story is coming up in just a second. So Carney is already screwing himself. He's lying about lying. It's absolutely hilarious to watch. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup, and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you want to get a hold of Kevin and Anna, you can do that, 204-808-9292, or hit the contacts tab on the website. And coming up at the beginning of April, which is not too far off now, April 5th and 6th, Canada Nano Silver will be at the National Women's Show, Stampede Park, BMO Center in Calgary. Again, that is April 5th and 6th, the Saturday and Sunday. The Saturday is from 10 till 6. The Sunday is from 10 till 5. They'll have all of their silver stuff with them. You want to go see them, say hello, because after all, they are us, right? Look at the shirt that Kev's wearing there. That's one of the ones I was giving away a couple of years ago. Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad to see he still got that. And by the way, speaking of shirts, for all access members, starting in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start giving Shadow at Night t-shirts away in black and white and a nice cool teal color. And I've also got some pretty sweet 20-ounce coffee mugs as well to give away to all access pass holders only for the first few months. And then maybe we'll put some on sale. The leftovers, we'll put them on sale through the website maybe in June or something. So become an all-access member, shadowdavis.com. Again, that is shadowdavis.com. Who's here tonight? Gloria is watching on Facebook from Winnipeg. Hello, Rita on X in Ontario. Darlene is watching in Oak Lake. Hello, Angela, watching in, I don't know where you're watching in, Angela, but you are on Facebook. Should I vote for Pierre or Maxime? Is that a poll question? People answer her. Bev is watching tonight. Hello, Lori. Give these liberal lunatics the Harris treatment they well deserve. April 28th, 2025. And Carney will be on his private plane back to Europe April 19th, 2025. Well, maybe that's 29th. Yeah, I think you just corrected that. Hello, Robert, watching in Kelowna. Sandy is watching in Alberta. Christine is watching in Enola. Hello, Frank in Milton, Ontario. Gerald is watching in St. Adolphe. There's Canada Nano Silver. They say, come visit us in Calgary at the National Women's Show, April 5th and 6th. I just said that. Sue is watching in Windsor. Right Blend, how you doing, buddy? By the way, Right Blend was out at this weird anti-Elon Musk rally in Ottawa the other day. You know how people are protesting Teslas, these crazy rainbow-haired lunatics are out there protesting Tesla because they hate Elon Musk. But when Right Blend went and asked them why they're so upset, they couldn't answer him. I put some of the video on the Facebook page over here, so you guys go have a look at that. And apparently Elon Musk saw that on X, and it's gone viral. Something like 40 million views. Am I right? Right? Like, that's crazy. Congratulations on that, man. That is absolutely awesome. Well done. Okay, so what happened with this French language debate fiasco for Mark Carney. So this is straight from CBC, and maybe because of the way Carney handled Rosie Barton in the last few days, CBC will now become a mortal enemy of Mark Carney. Maybe they'll switch allegiances. I don't think they could ever bring themselves to go conservative, but maybe they'll go NDP and split that left-wing, zany left-wing vote. Canada election, TVA French language debate canceled after Carney turns down invite. Network had asked parties to pay $75,000 to attend. Okay, so here's the deal. The NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, who participated in 2 TVA leaders' debates, said the cancellation of the debate after the Liberal leader turned down the invitation is insulting to Quebecers. Singh said the debate is an opportunity for Quebecers not just to hear the party leaders debate in French, but specifically on issues that matter to them. I think in a democracy, Singh said, more debates are better. Not having this debate is reducing that ability to hear about the things that matter to the people of Quebec. Yves-Francois Blanchette had some great words, but we've got video of that, so we'll play that in just a second. How big a deal is this TVA debate anyway? Well, Rihanna Schmunk. I almost said schmuck. I'm sorry, but I'm glad I didn't, though. Rihanna Schmunk from the National Desk says Quebec has long been a crucial battleground in federal elections. Duh. And the TVA debate is typically the only one that focuses largely on that province. The other 2 official debates organized by a group of media outlets have more of a national scope to their questions. So it's safe to say the TVA event would have drawn a big audience in a politically significant province, even though it's harder to predict exactly how many people would have tuned in. So there's Yves-Francois Blanchette laying into Carney there. Okay, all right. So never mind that. We know the debate is canceled now because the Liberals said no. But look at this. This from the Western Standard. They say, tabernacle. Carney flubs question asked in French about French language debate. Carney tripped over his mot Francois and accidentally confirmed he would participate in a $75,000 private French language debate with other federal leaders. The public federal leaders' debates have been scheduled for April 16th and 17th in French and English, respectively, which all party leaders participate in if they have 4% in the polls, 28 days ahead of the debate, or they hold a seat in Parliament. However, a third separate debate has been proposed by private French language network TVA Nouvelle, one that costs party leaders $75,000 apiece. TVA said it needs at least $300,000 raised from party leaders to offset the cost of production. So the Bloc, the Conservatives, and the NDP all confirmed they would participate. That's what CBC said. Maxime Bernier of the PPC, who's striving to get his party's numbers up so he can join the 2 public debates, and we'll show you what he's doing to campaign in the next few minutes. He told the Western Standard he will also debate on TVA. According to the Crown broadcaster, Tory leader Pierre Poilievre on Monday in French provoked Carney to debate him on stage at the private debate. If he thinks the Liberals should have a 4th term after the lost Liberal decade, he should say yes. But he didn't. Carney said no. He did not want to be. After all was said and done and all the smoke cleared, Carney said no, we're not going to do that debate. So here is Yves-Francois Blanchette responding to the Liberal leader after he pulled out.
Don't know what he is not afraid of. This guy is supposed to be strong enough to face Donald Trump, which is one of the biggest threats on democracy and freedom for a long time. I will face the guy. And then we say, hey, come in Quebec and discuss with us because you want us to vote for you. Oh, I won't go. And I have the perfect pretext. I say, us, the Liberal Party of Canada, we do not have $75,000. We're so poor. Yeah, I do believe that. So I'm saying to him, hey, let's come and face the music.
Officially, he said that he's not going to participate. He hasn't talked about the money being an issue.
The Liberal Party has said that they don't want to pay the $75,000.
It's not in the official statement, but can I ask you, are you worried that this robs you of an important platform for yourself in an election campaign?
That's the intention of Mr. Carney. I want to rob the Bloc Québécois, which I have refused to acknowledge so far, of a very important stage on which they could force me to reveal something of a program about which I have said nothing so far. This is not the behavior of somebody which has been well equipped with courage.
They're on him. They're on him like white on rice. You chicken! If you think you can handle Donald Trump, then you come and handle me first in the French language debate. His French sucks is the problem. He doesn't understand it and doesn't speak it well. So it's going to be interesting to see him in any French debate. But those network debates, the ones that are handled by all the media people in the country, they're a little softer on people like Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau et al. Because, of course, they want them to win. So the questions become softballs. The rules of the debate become more favorable to whichever party the networks favor. But TVA, different. That would have been like a complete and total madhouse in there. And that's probably another reason that Carney decided not to. The thing about Mark Carney is they're going to try and keep him away as much as they possibly can from media and from the people. Look at what happened. Do I have this? I will have this for you. Look at what happened in Newfoundland yesterday as he tries to hold a rally in downtown St. John's. We'll get to that. He kept the fishermen locked out. But first, everybody seems to be talking about this Mark Carney, Mike Myers commercial, right? And we played it last night. If you missed last night's show with Anita Krishna, it is on my Facebook page. But go follow her on YouTube, Anita K. on YouTube. She could definitely use your support. We all could use your support, for goodness sakes. Don't forget to like and share, you guys. Get this out there to as many people as possible. But yeah, Anita and I did a show on this last night where she played that video, and we were speculating as to how much money Myers would have charged for his appearance in this commercial. Some are saying he did it for free. He can't do it for free because if he tried to do it for free, he'd have the unions up at his face. He'd have to work for at least scale, which would work out to about $20,000 or $25,000. So I would say he was paid, but I can't tell you exactly how much he was paid in order to support Mark Carney. He's also said in the past that he was a big fan of Justin Trudeau and Trudeau's father, Pierre. Here's Mike Myers in 2015 on that, what was that breakfast show? Is it still on with Kelly Ripa and whoever? Anyway, he was on that show a few years ago, and listen to this from Mike Myers.
In D.C., I mean, oh my God.
Fascinating.
It's a great
I'm an American citizen now, gratefully so.
Thank you. We're welcome.
No,
welcome.
thank you. No, I
You
always,
want to take them to D.C.?
I took Spike to D.C. and I gave him a speech about what a great country this is and what a privilege it is to be in this country, and he was really blown away. I mean, we were just. It is a very impressive and just. These are some pretty. I'm going to get very serious right now.
Thank you.
Some pretty strong ideals that my British parents, growing up in Canada, and my now American citizenship stand for. I don't take it lightly at all. It's a very, very important thing to me. It's true.
I'm not saying that Mike Myers is a liar, because I'm sure he still has some allegiance to Canada. But if you haven't paid taxes in this country since sometime in the 1980s, maybe you should just shut your mouth. Right? You don't have to get politically. I mean, that's the thing with these actors, too. And a lot of people are saying, hey, man, the same thing that happened with Kamala Harris is happening up here in Canada. The difference is that when it happened with Kamala Harris, when she was introduced as the Democratic nominee back in, what was it, July or August of last year, whenever it was, the election wasn't for a few months, right? And the American people got a little bit more time to get to know that Kamala Harris was, in fact, dumb. But here in Canada, we're not going to have that luxury. We're not going to have that time to get to know exactly who Mark Carney is unless we feed that information to the Canadian people through a fire hose. So here's Mark Carney last night at a rally in downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, where a bunch of Newfoundland fishermen wanted to go and see Mark Carney. Apparently there's some new law passed there that's going to make it harder for these fishermen to harvest certain fish and other aquatic species, which could really harm their bank accounts and their families and whatever it is they pay for, whether it's cars or homes, whatever. So here's some video of that from our friends at Raven News.
So, tell me. This place is full of fishermen. Why are we here, Jason?
Oh, we're Liberal supporters.
We're
excited to see Prime Minister.
Jokes. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Oh yeah, he's just a regular Joe. We want to see him.
So there's Mark Carney's people saying, I'm sorry, but you will not be allowed in. You will not be allowed in. But we couldn't exactly hear what the parameters of that were. What are the rules? Do I have to be a card-carrying Liberal member? Is there such a thing in this country? I'm just an undecided voter looking to find out if your candidate is worthy of my vote. You should let everybody into events like this. Pierre Poilievre had a huge rally in North York yesterday. We've got some video of that coming up. Here's Mark Carney lying about lying when it comes. Listen to the bumbling and stumbling for a guy who's been the governor of two central banks in the world, in the UK and Canada. He doesn't seem to be able to get his numbers straight. And more word salad, but he doesn't even do it as well as Justin Trudeau
In the Liberal leadership race, you said that your middle class tax cut would offset the loss of carbon rebates. The cut you offered is up to $825. The rebates were as high as $1,800 for a family in Alberta. I'm just wondering how you square that math.
We do square the math. We have squared the math. A couple of things. One is you look at where the rebate is today. You net I'm going to look at the camera because you moved behind it, but I can't look you in the eye. But you square with
what? Let's just back that up just a touch here. What?
I'm going to look at the camera because you moved behind it, but I can't look you in the eye. But you square with.
I can't look you in the eye. Why can't you look at him in the eye? Is there something the matter with his eyes? Does he have like Marty Feldman eyes? Are they hypnotic eyes? Does he have Dracula eyes? Why can't he look you? Why can't you look people in the eye, Mark Carney?
You square it with the carbon tax, so-called, that people are no longer paying because the rebate is obviously a gross amount. You have to net off the carbon tax that's being paid. So you have our tax cut today versus that rebate and the net of the carbon tax that has gone away. Plus, we have added the rebate, an extra quarter of the rebate that goes directly to people without the carbon tax. So for a median income, a family of earning $50,000, they come out ahead.
You know, I watched that clip, I'm going to say a half a dozen times as I was preparing for the show tonight. And guys, I have to tell you that, and I'm not a stupid guy, I didn't quite understand. Matter of fact, I didn't understand at all what he was talking about there. What was he talking about? You know, the one thing about Pierre Poilievre, whether you like him or not, is that he's very adept at explaining his positions, policies, and platforms. He released another vignette video, partly from his rally in North York yesterday, and then partly about tax breaks that he's proposing, 15% for middle-income Canadians, which we'll play for you in just a few minutes. But staying with the theme of revealing who Mark Carney is with information fed to you through a fire hose, a lot of people have been sending me videos of this guy, Mario for the North. And they've been asking me, get him on the show. And to be honest, I haven't even lifted a finger in that regard. But you just got to keep reminding me because I forget. What happens is I open up the phone first thing, and there's like 20 messages waiting for me. So I say to myself, you're going to get that guest on tomorrow night. Next thing you know, you're completely swept away in all of the messages that you're trying to answer or at least look at. And then you forget. So what you guys need to do is keep reminding me to get Mario for the North. You send me all of his stuff all the time. He's doing some great stuff on TikTok and on X. I think he's got like 100,000 followers. So he's doing very well. And he makes some very good points. And he digs up a lot of good stuff. This for example.
Well, here, you're not going to find anywhere because this was printed back in 2021, and I'm going to blow your mind. Watch this. So I'm going to zoom into these sections so you can see what I see. In Mark Carney's book, Values, Building a Better World, he says that Western society is morally rotten and that it has been corrupted by capitalism. He claims it requires rigid controls on personal freedom, industry, and corporate funding. Since about 2020, Carney has been front and center in the promotion of a political agenda known as the Great Reset, all predicated on the disruption of the global economy, providing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to not just regulate climate, but to frame it a more fair, more diverse, and more inclusive, more safe, and more woke world. Carney draws inspiration from, among others, Marx, Engels, and Lenin. But the agenda he promotes differs from Marxism in two key respects. First, the private sector is not to be expropriated, but made a partner in reshaping the economy and society. Second, it does not make a promise to make the lives of ordinary people better, but worse. Carney's Brave New World will be one of severely constrained choice, less flying, less meat, more inconvenience, and more poverty. This is Mark Carney's own words. Assets will be stranded, used gasoline-powered cars will be unsellable, inefficient properties will be unrentable, he promises. But listen to what Carney says. Should sex be up for sale? Carney thunders, following Sandel. Should there be a market in the right to have children? Why not auction the right to opt out of military service? Why shouldn't universities sell admission to raise money for worthy causes? Should there be a right to have children? And there you have it. From his words, not mine, your Prime Minister of Canada.
Woo! From his book, which is called Values. I would assume the values are his. Should sex be for sale? Should the people have to have licenses to have children? It's all so sick. And it's out there in the public for everybody to see. And let's not forget about his complete zealotry over the climate and what he's been doing in that regard for the past 6 or 7 years. Here's Kevin O'Leary talking about Mark Carney. He was on with Candace Malcolm from Juno News earlier today.
The Premier's comments. I take note of her alignment of Monsieur Poilievre with Mr. Trump, and would note that that's one of the decisions that Canadians will have to make, whether they want a government that is unifying, that's standing up for Canada, and is taking focused action to build a better economy, or they want division and Americanism. And that's what Mr. Poilievre seems to be offering, and just endorsed by the Premier of Alberta.
So what do you make of that, Kevin?
You know, I find that quite humorous, because a strong economy in Canada would be based on energy and energy exports. And Alberta has almost 4 times the reserves of the entire United States in just oil alone. And where do they export it to? The United States. It's the #1 trading partner. So to suggest that it would be a good idea to cut that off, or not to engage with the largest trading partner during these difficult times, would be very foolish. And I think in saying that, he is actually dividing Canada in negotiations with the U.S. to purchase oil. You may recall, and I'll point this out, Daniel Smith actually was one of the first premiers to go to Washington before the inauguration, meet with Trump, and has been, I think, rewarded with a 10% tariff proposal, not a 25%. And yet Carney did something that put him back, I think, maybe months, if not years, or maybe in a very unenviable position for Canadians, by snubbing the American administration and getting on a plane and going to Europe, when the tradition for over 100 years has been to acknowledge the White House the minute an interim prime minister comes into power. That was not missed by the American administration. They are very unhappy with that, and I think trying to elevate that tension is a very foolish strategy on Carney's part, because as people have learned, whether you like Trump or not, they certainly have got to know him over 12 years, he takes it personally. Very foolish if you don't understand that. So for all of Carney's, and I applaud his resume, he's impressive, but he doesn't get it. He is completely out of sync with what it's going to take to negotiate with Trump and understand how important it is to work out this deal with a country that buys 75% of our output. So the reason that we got in such a bad place in the first situation was, if you recall back in the first mandate Trump had, both Trudeau and Freeland could not stop bad-mouthing him all around the world. That was stupid, because they thought Trump would never return to power. He did, and he made it his first mandate to make sure that he called, and this all started by calling Trudeau the first governor of the 51st state. He was just sticking it back to Trudeau, and people don't understand that. That was how toxic that relationship got. It was completely dysfunctional and not good for American people or Canadians. And Carney's doing exactly the same thing. I'm sure that'll be pointed out in the campaign. Very, very foolish, stupid. And he hasn't learned anything from what happened to Trudeau.
Interesting. I was speaking with a friend today about these people, these arrogant globalists. And in their mind, they're not arrogant. But this is the world that they live in, right? This is how they all are. You've seen movies like this, right? Where let's think of one where there's rich people. Okay, so Batman, for example. Batman Begins would be a great one. Or maybe the next one, whatever. Where Bruce Wayne is having a fundraiser for Harvey Dent so he can raise enough money to become the attorney, whatever. And all the rich people, they're all, oh, that's a gorgeous gown. What did that cost? Oh, $10,000 at Tiffany's. That's how they are. So when the average person like us looks at people like that, we see arrogance, we see elitism, and they just don't see it. And Carney's handlers, this is what Anita pointed out last night as well. Carney's handlers are not doing a great job of trying to make him come across like a regular guy. They've been trying. Well, maybe they have been trying, but Carney just can't do it. He can't do it because he's been in that world too long. He tried it with the Mike Myers commercial, right? But then they've got him skating with the Oilers where he misses the net. And the video of that somehow got out. That never should have got out, but it did. Then he poses with the Oilers for a picture, and the hate that picture and those videos on social media brought was absolutely amazing, because we know better. We know exactly what and who Mark Carney is. And he can't not be who he is. Ultimately, you got to be who you got to be. And he's an elitist without the flash and pizzazz and the hair of Justin Trudeau. And maybe that is what Pierre Poilievre should play on. Poilievre got off to a great start yesterday, and a pretty good one today as well. Let's go back to that Danielle Smith speech from last week. This is going to be, it's going to seem like I'm hammering on Carney, but he needs to be hammered on, because the other side is trying to pump him up way too much. Listen to what Danielle says about Carney once again.
As former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault is still in cabinet. But that shouldn't surprise any of us, given that the new Prime Minister is a whole new level of climate zealot and eco-extremist. From his decades-long push for net zero banking that sought to make it impossible for banks to invest in oil and gas, to his promise now to massively increase carbon taxes on our industry, make no mistake, he wants to eviscerate our oil and gas industry. It's right in his book. In Canada, our national identity, unity, our freedom, and our future are at a monumental crossroads. It is likely that soon Canadians will be headed to the ballot box to be able to vote in the most pivotal federal election that we have had in our lifetimes.
Yeah, she's right, man. She's absolutely right. This is the most pivotal federal election that we've had in our lifetimes, and it is essential that every one of us, everybody get out and vote. I see right now that between all of the social media platforms we're streaming to tonight, we've got 2,000 live viewers tonight. I want you to get out and vote. Obviously, most of you will, but you got to bring your friends and family with you. The ones that traditionally, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm not going to vote. I never voted in my life. Bring them out. Show them the party's platforms, whichever, right? Show them the NDP, show them the Liberals, show them all the websites, show them 30-second speeches from each one of the leaders. And make up your mind. You are in control over who runs this country next. And if you don't vote, it could possibly be this guy. It could possibly be Mark Carney. Here's what Liz Truss, the former PM of the UK, on The Blaze says about Mark Carney.
It is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually created by him. He backed Labour in the election and Rachel Reeves's policies, which are leading the country to bankruptcy. So why on earth the Liberal Party of Canada has selected this man, I have no idea. And I think it is illegitimate that this guy has never been elected as a member of Parliament in Canada. I'm utterly puzzled, and the Canadians. I'm not going to tell the Canadians how to vote. Obviously, I want the Conservatives to be elected in Canada, but I think it's Justin Trudeau has pursued a lot of the same policies that Europe has been pursuing. And America has raced ahead of us. Back at the turn of the millennium, the average Brit was catching up with the average American in terms of income per head.
Wow.
We are now $34,000 a year behind. We are poorer than Mississippi, which is the poorest American state. And the same is true. The same is true of France and Germany, and to some extent of Canada, because they pursued all of these woke policies. High taxes, high spending, not using their natural resources. And Justin Trudeau was the architect of that. And of course, Mark Carney has been the advocate of these policies. So I don't know what is going on in Canada, but in the same way as I think people in Britain need to wake up to what the real threat to our country is, I think they need to wake up in Canada.
Do they ever? Now, if the Liberals, you see, there's going to be a silver lining in even a loss. In all situations in front of us in the next month, we will find some positive out of it. For example, if the Liberals do manage to pull off this election and somehow gain a majority in the House of Commons, it's going to be through Ontario and Quebec. Although I don't think these polls, I believe they're being co-opted by the Chinese. I really seriously do. I do not believe the Liberals are soaring like the polls say they are in Quebec. I believe the Bloc Québécois is definitely going to take at least half the seats in Quebec. Now, the Maritimes, I can't say one way or the other. Traditionally, they have been Liberal, even in down times for the Liberal Party. Ontario, different story. Completely different story. It looked like Poilievre and the Conservatives were going to take at least 75 or 80% of the seats in Ontario. And now the polls are suggesting that the Liberals will take. Anyway, what my point is that the West is going to be blue. With the exception of a few pockets here and there, like maybe 1 or 2 seats in Edmonton, maybe 1 seat in Saskatoon. There's going to be a few seats in Winnipeg. Winnipeg is a weird city. But all of rural Manitoba, except for the north, is going to be blue. BC, the interior and the eastern part of that province is going to be blue. But the lower mainland is going to be red and orange in a lot of cases. What I'm saying to you is that if the Liberals do manage to pull this off because of the collapse of the NDP, and we'll get to Jagmeet Singh in just a second, Alberta, in my opinion, will begin the process of separation. And that means a referendum. And that means a campaign. And I think, according to the sources that I have, very deep-seated sources that I have in Alberta, and I am not going to reveal who they are, that they will begin a huge marketing campaign, Alberta first, so they can become an independent republic, independent of Canada, independent of the United States. And after that, it's possible they could have another referendum to join the United States. But that's what I believe is going to happen. And if it does, Saskatchewan goes right along with them, possibly part of Manitoba, possibly part of British Columbia. That's what I've been saying all along. It's what I think is going to happen if the Liberals win. You cannot have a country that is so divided. And all you need to do is look at any map from the past 30 years of Canadian elections, and you see it for yourself. Red in the east, blue in the west. It's always the way it's been. But the West is not going to stand for it any longer, considering these radical, eco-extreme policies of the Liberal Party of Canada. And the people in the east, they don't care because they don't think that it's a big deal. They somehow don't think that their energy is a big deal. Even though they scream and yell and holler about pollution and the environment and climate change and all of that stuff, they'd rather use dirty oil from Venezuela than the clean product that Alberta provides. It's amazing to me. Jagmeet Singh kicked off his campaign yesterday. He is Mr. Excitement, ladies and gentlemen.
See what's happening in the U.S. Greed is tearing it apart. And those same forces are banging at our door. We can and we must fight back. Let me be perfectly clear. We will never be Trump's 51st state, not in name, not in values, not ever. Even before Donald Trump started his greedy trade war, times were tough. And we fought to make things better for you and your family. And now, because of Donald Trump's illegal trade war, things are getting even more expensive. We all know that we're in for a rough road ahead. Things are already tough. And at the end of the day, only New Democrats will fight to make sure you don't pay the price.
Okay, that's enough of Jagmeet. I'm sorry. I can't take it. He's so irrelevant. He is so irrelevant. I believe that this is going to boil down to a two-horse race. And I find it interesting. You know, once again, the Liberal Party puts out an old white guy as their leader, as their savior, as the man who is going to be able to save Canada and get a deal with Donald Trump, even though all the experts are saying that Mark Carney would be eviscerated by Donald Trump. What happened to diversity? What happened to diversity? And he's a billionaire or a millionaire. We don't know exactly because he won't tell us, and all of his assets are in a blind trust. So we got an old dude billionaire who is going to be the savior of the extreme left. Huh? Oh, yeah. But then again, these are the same people who go out and burn and firebomb Tesla dealerships and cars and key these cars in parking lots and whatnot. When a year ago they were saying, you should go out and buy a Tesla, man. They're really good for the environment. Right. Oh, one more thing about Mark Carney here. Let me throw this up on the screen. You know that the Liberals have been letting in millions and millions and millions of people into Canada for the past 4 years. Yeah, through the Century Initiative. Mark Carney just hired an executive from the World Economic Forum, BlackRock, and the Century Initiative is one of his main advisors. Do you think Islamophobia is a problem in this country? Or anti-Semitism? I think anti-Semitism more so these past couple of years. But, you know, aside from what's been happening after October 7th, we hadn't really, aside from the, in my opinion, funded eco-terrorists and funded race rage people, by and large in Canadian society, there's not really any kind of major problem. I don't know. I mean, it just never occurred to me until they actually brought it to our attention that there is a problem at all. So Mark Carney puts this tweet out today, and some of the, I'm not going to read all of the responses, but some of them are absolutely hilarious. If you guys are on X, you should take the time to go and check this out. This type of violence is not an isolated incident. Charges, let me read you the headline first from the CBC. Charges laid after police say hijab-wearing woman was attacked in Ajax, Ontario library. Now this, according to most of the commenters, had nothing to do with Islamophobia, which is, in my opinion, a made-up word from white liberals and Muslims. This type of violence is not an isolated incident. Muslim activists, I should say. Islamophobia is real. It is dangerous and it must stop. I offer my support and prayers to the victim of this terrible act, and I'm relieved that the police acted quickly and made an arrest. Okay. So, Muslims have been coming here in huge numbers, like I said, for the past few years, largely fueled by the Century Initiative. And they've been taking over our streets, major cities. They've been blocking main arteries in busy areas at busy times so they can pray to Allah. Well, there's one guy in Toronto who said that's enough. And I hope he keeps doing this. Watch what he did here. So you can't hear this, but this guy over here, this Muslim dude, is asking him, hey, look, can you turn that down? We're trying to pray over here. And this guy's saying, no, you can go pound sand. But you can't hear him over the Icicle Works song there, whispered to a screen.
Do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do. Thank you.
Now, look, I have nothing against Muslim people. I don't care who you pray to. That's your business, man. Just keep it out of the streets. Do it at home. And if you need to pray at a certain time every day or 3 times every day or whatever, make sure you can find a private, quiet place to do it. We don't need to see that stuff. We don't do that. I mean, people in the UK are being arrested for praying in their minds in certain zones around abortion clinics in the UK. Maybe not even just abortion clinics. You can stand there, police walk up to you and say, what are you thinking about then? What, you're going to arrest me for standing here, thinking, or looking like I might be praying here? That's what they're doing over there. But over here, you got the Islam praying in the streets and in the steps of whatever public building they were on there, and nobody does a thing about it. And so this guy decides he's going to bring his classic rock collection out with his dog and blast it to interrupt their ceremony. Oh, my fire alarm is going off. Generally speaking, it goes off in this building once a week or so, and nothing ever really happens. So I never usually get up and leave. And I'm not going to now. It's just going to be an annoyance in the background. Pierre Poilievre released this vignette this morning And this has got millions of views already on social media. Watch this.
Her and a son sitting in a park on a bench, and the son said, "Dad, what is an income tax form?" And the father looked at him and said, "Well, son, it's the opposite of your report card. The better you do, the more you get punished." It's the fine you pay for the crime of working hard.
And that's on top of all the other taxes you pay. There's the GST and PST and HST, capital gains tax, the carbon tax on top of the gas tax, property tax, payroll tax, tax on imports, tax on exports, sin tax. The list goes on. When you add it all up, Canadians spend more on tax than on food, clothing, and shelter combined. And after the lost Liberal decade, the government is taking more of your paycheck than ever before. Most of these Liberal tax hikes happened while Mark Carney was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Now Carney proposes billions of dollars of additional spending that will mean even higher taxes for you. Electing the Liberals to a fourth term will only make your tax bill go up. Today, as we kick off the election, I'm announcing that common sense Conservatives will cut income taxes by 15% for the average Canadian. The average Canadian earns $57,000.
A couple, each making the average income, will save $1,800. The average worker will save $900.
But because we'll cut the rate on the lowest income bracket, everyone who pays income tax will pay less of it. As a percentage, modest income people will save the most. This means you'll keep more of your paycheck and hard work will pay off. Seniors will pay less tax on their retirement income. Welders, waitresses, and other workers will keep more of their tips and paychecks. We'll free up money for this tax cut by eliminating waste, cutting bureaucracy and consultants, and capping spending with a dollar-for-dollar law. Lowering income tax is part of my Bring It Home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. I call it the Bring It Home tax cut because Canada will bring home more business and investment, and you will bring home more of what you earn. We know that tax cuts create jobs, and that will help build Canada's economic fortress against American threats. It will allow consumers to spend more money supporting local businesses while rewarding hard work that makes everyone better off. So that dad in the park can tell his boy that when he grows up and works hard, he will keep his paycheck and earn a great life, buy a beautiful home on a safe street protected by brave soldiers under a proud flag. Canada first, for a change. Let's bring it home.
Poilievre does extremely well with those little information pieces that he puts together, and he'd been doing that for quite some time and then just kind of stopped a few months ago for whatever reason. And hopefully he brings them back and he puts one out every single day, one of those, because people need to know the story behind the slogan. And the way Mark Carney bumbles around, the family with $50,000 is going to be better off because of the tax cuts that we're bringing in, because of the carbon tariffs that we'll be imposing. You can't listen to the guy for any longer than 30 seconds without going. You guys hear that beeping in the background? I apologize for that. I can't stop it. I'm not going anywhere. But it's annoying. We have to actually wait for the fire department to come now and shut it off. So it's going to be going for a while. Max Bernier, I have not forgotten about Max. He kicked off his campaign in the United States. He's appeared on the large American podcasts. He was on Patrick Bet-David a couple of days ago, and he was on with Alex Jones over the weekend.
Country to be a sovereign country, and I'm doing a little bit like President Trump. I'm putting Canadian first and our country first, but all together we can stop that trade war. We can have a deal, and because what Trump is asking for a real deal with Canada, a real free trade. And as like President Trump said, we are imposing, for example, 300% tariffs on the milk, dairy, and poultry. So your guys here in the U.S. cannot sell and cannot export these goods to Canada because it won't be available. It will be too expensive. They won't be competitive. So that being said, we need to have the renegotiation of the free trade agreement right now with President Trump. Put everything on the table, and the best deal will be no tariff on our side and no tariff on your side.
That would create an explosive boom. All the economic models show.
Absolutely.
You see, here's the issue that Bernier faces, aside from whatever 2% or 3% in the polls. And again, the polls, I mean, come on. He goes down to America, and American podcast hosts immediately say, oh, he's a conservative leader in Canada, and any Canadian who sees that knows better. Because he's not a Canadian leader. His party does not have a seat in the House of Commons, and the Americans have a woeful knowledge of the Canadian political system. I get that they know some stuff regarding trade, but ultimately speaking, they should know that Maxime Bernier is not really the voice of the conservative movement in Canada. So what's the point? If you want somebody who is the conservative leader in this country, and I mean conservative as a descriptor, not as a party title, then you got to go and get Pierre Poilievre. Now, for whatever reason, Poilievre hasn't done these big American shows. Maybe because he doesn't want to be tied to Donald Trump, because for whatever reason, 65% of Canadians, according to polls, have Donald Trump derangement syndrome. And so Poilievre figures if he goes down there and he does Joe Rogan, he does Patrick Bet David, he does all the other big ones, Alex Jones, he's going to be lumped in with Donald Trump and lose the election based on that alone. So anyway, that's what all the political leaders are doing on day one or day two of the campaign. We have some sad news regarding Rocco Galati. It's not what you think. No, he's still alive, but he's being sued. It's a class action. Here's a story from Tamara Ugolini of Rebel News.
Action lawsuit has been initiated against once outspoken COVID critic lawyer Rocco Galati, his associated entities, and his Constitutional Rights Center, which I will refer to as the Galati defendants. The lawsuit alleges negligent misrepresentation, including pleading so poorly drafted they never had a chance of being heard on the merits. The bulk of this class action lawsuit centers on Galati's instruction to unionized members who were being ousted from their workplace and effectively denied their ability to earn income due to COVID-19 related measures such as vaccine mandates. And it's being said that Galati advised them not to communicate or cooperate with their unions to file things like grievances. In addition to that, Galati reportedly advised his clients not to discuss their cases with other lawyers. And as outlined in previous decisions and according to the statement of claim, these actions resulted in some of these former clients being forced to pay up to $200,000 in court costs. The parties in this class action each gave Galati at least $1,000 and upwards of $3,500 in the case of once ousted Toronto paramedic Scarlett Martin, who, as the mother of 4, had previously been awarded the Exemplary Service Medal when she reached her 20th anniversary on the job. The broader class in the lawsuit is described as anyone who made payment to the Galati defendants or to the Constitutional Rights Center to initiate COVID-19 litigation between March 1st, 2020 and present. This is further broken down into 6 legal cases brought forward by Galati and or the Constitutional Rights Center, referred to as the 2020 Ontario Action, 2021 Ontario Action, 2022 Ontario Action, 2023 Ontario Action, the British Columbia Action, and the Federal Court Action. The case against Galati's actions explains that following the unprecedented state of emergency in March of 2020, Galati began representing himself as a constitutional expert and solicited donations through various fundraising campaigns to bring legal challenges to COVID-19 government measures, which is alleged to have totaled into the multi-millions. While people were losing their businesses and their livelihoods, Galati was making bank. It's outlined that the Galati defendants and the CRC promised to seek injunctions, declarations of invalidity, and constitutional challenges to government COVID-19 measures that would affect the rights of the general public, and that each of them had received in excess of $1 million to do so. The general theme of each action centers on an alleged pattern of ambitious but poorly executed challenges to government-imposed COVID-19 measures across multiple court jurisdictions. These lawsuits were brought on behalf of diverse plaintiffs ranging from individuals and healthcare workers to municipal employees, seeking declarations and injunctive relief against policies like vaccine mandates and masking requirements. Funded partly through public donations to the CRC and flat fee retainers, these cases consistently featured lengthy, argumentative pleadings that were said to have advanced pseudo-legal theories that had no reasonable chance of being heard by the courts on the merits, and violated various procedural rules, leading to repeated dismissals or strikes by courts for being prolix or bad beyond argument. A big part of these actions relates to similarly worded claims being reused by Galati even after others had been dismissed in other courts, such as the 2023 Ontario action, which was deemed bad beyond argument 2 weeks before the closely mirrored federal action claim was brought forth, showing Galati ought to have known that the claim was doomed to fail. The 2022 BC action was deemed bad beyond argument as well, with the appeal being denied based on there being no reviewable error described and for, again, being prolix with a 391-page long notice of civil claim. The federal action was similarly deemed bad beyond argument for mostly the same reasons outlined in the 2022 BC action, but granted plaintiffs outside of the federal sector the ability to amend their claim. Instead of doing that, Galati filed an appeal of that decision, which ultimately found no reviewable error in the decision, but the judge did grant leave to amend to all plaintiffs should they wish to adjust the claim. I guess that's at their own expense. The 2024 Ontario action further found lack of jurisdiction, abusive process, no reasonable cause of action, improperly naming private citizens in a charter argument, which lacks jurisdiction, etc. The Galati defendants are further criticized in the statement of claim for inadequate client communication and advising unionized plaintiffs against working with their unions, which the Galati defendants should have known and in fact knew after that first decision that unionized employees have to at least initiate the grievance process through their union as their only legal avenue for employment disputes against their employer, and prioritizing ideological pursuits over client interests, often leaving plaintiffs liable for substantial costs and with little progress in their cases.
You know, I have to stop for just a second on this. I recall 3 years ago, people messaging me, union members who refused to get the jibby jab there, saying, well, what should I do? My lawyer, and it was Rocco, says I shouldn't try to go through the union and make a complaint here. And I said, well, even I knew that by law, that's your only legal recourse as a member of a union to do that, unless your union says no to you and laughs you out of the building. And that's what Rocco was telling these people. Don't mention this to your union representatives. He should have known that was the wrong advice. Why was he telling them that? Is he a scam artist? When he was a celebrated figure in the movement just 3 years ago? This is a hard pill to swallow, man.
As exemplified by stalled injunction efforts and a tendency to appeal rather than amend flawed pleadings at the judge's request. For the breach of contract claim, it was an expressed or implied term that the Galati defendants would do all things necessary or reasonable to protect or advance their clients' interests, draft pleadings in accordance with the applicable rules of the court, draft claims grounded in law, have reasonable knowledge of applicable or relevant law, follow basic civil procedural rules, name correct parties, and amend pleadings rather than appeal the orders striking the pleadings with leave to amend, which is much costlier, and do things like provide legal advice to the various risks of litigation. While none of these allegations have been proven in court as of yet, it is assumed that the competent legal team would likely have sufficient evidence to substantiate their statement of claim. Now, the plaintiffs are seeking a range of remedies, including an accounting and disgorgement of all revenue earned by the Galati defendants from drafting pleadings and pursuing appeals in these various actions. They also claim general damages estimated at $4 million, special damages at $1 million, and aggravated or punitive damages at another $1 million, with all amounts subject to proof at trial. When Galati was contacted for his comment on the filings against him, his counsel responded that he intends to defend against this baseless claim. Mr. Galati and Rocco Galati law firm Professional Corporation are represented by Ken Fitz at McLennan Ross, whereas the Constitutional Rights Center Inc. is represented by Joe Spelsey at Duncan Craig LLP. Although Galati has attempted to sue those who criticized his legal actions previously, the courts dismissed his 2024 case under anti-SLAPP legislation and ordered him to pay $132,000 in costs. Galati's former client, Dr. Kalvinder Gill, is suing him for $2 million, and Canuck Law has the receipts. Damages include professional negligence, breach of fiduciary duty, and or breach of contract, pain, suffering, loss of reputation, as well as aggravated and or punitive damages. Another former client, Dr. Ashvinder Lamba, is suing for similar damages in the amount of $600,000. Now, this particular class action suit could very well lay bare an alleged betrayal of trust, masquerading as a crusade for justice that lured desperate Canadians, mothers like Scarlett Martin, healthcare workers, and municipal employees into a legal abyss with promises of bold challenges to COVID-19 measures that never came to fruition, despite amassing millions through retainers and public donations. Though the claim advances things like negligence, many are left overall feeling exploited during a time of crisis when they needed assurance the most, because they were poised to lose everything for speaking out against the illusion of consensus when it came to the handling of COVID-19.
If there's any truth to these allegations, and I think there might be, I don't know how much lower a person can sink. That's like price gouging in a natural disaster. It's the same thing. One more story before we move to the extension tonight on shadowdavis.com. And by the way, tonight it's going to be interesting. Why does Donald Trump really want Canada? From an American economist and venture capitalist perspective, a guy named Mark Moss breaks down his opinion coming up in the extension. It's not going to be one of these shadowy kinds of stories tonight. It's going to be simple. What does Trump really want in Canada? Does he want the fentanyl to stop? Yeah, maybe. Sure. Does he want the border to shore up? Yeah, sure. Maybe. But people have been saying he's after our natural resources. But what exactly is he after? He's already got access to all the oil that Alberta makes. So what then? Water? Yeah, maybe. A lot of water in Western Canada. A lot of water in the entire country. Fresh water. Is it that? Rare minerals, rare earth. We got a lot of that up here. They've got a lot of it down there, but not nearly as much as we've got up here. Could that be it? Maybe. We'll find out in the extension tonight on shadowdavis.com for all access members. One more story here. This comes from the Winnipeg Free Press. Wob Canoe, this is exactly what these extreme Marxists have been doing all across the country. I tried to tell people during the Manitoba election a year and a half ago, he's going to do this. Oh, no, he's not. He's a good guy. Manitoba law deems deliberate pronoun misuse as discrimination. Well, it's not a law yet. This is only a proposal, so another bad headline by the Winnipeg Free Press. New Manitoba legislation would deem the deliberate misuse of someone's preferred pronouns as discrimination and increase human rights protections for the LGBT. I guess there's an extra T in there now. Q plus community. Bill 43 aims to insert gender expression among the list of protected characteristics under the Human Rights Code. Justice Minister Matt Wiebe, there he is there, introduced the legislation formerly known as the Human Rights Code Amendment Act last week. So let me be very clear. There's already been rulings by the Supreme Court of Canada on this compelled speech. But Section 2B of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is expressly clear. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms: freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. And that means that if I see a man walk into my office dressed as a woman, I will call him a man, because my charter rights say so. And I don't care what any law, provincial, municipal, federal, says, because the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is the supreme law of the land. Period. End of story. So good luck with that, Wob Canoe in Manitoba. Guys, you know what? I've almost forgotten. I don't want to close off the show here tonight without saying hello to some of my Rumble people. So hello, Dame Pam and Chicken Hair, Roween 30, Mouth of the South 123 notables here. Rico Suarez, Esky Dogs, PDS 10, my, Delilah, Bent Wrench and 409. All you guys are awesome. Thank you very much for your support. Do not forget to like and share. Get this show out to as many people as you possibly can. Also consider becoming a member, an all-access member at shadowdavis.com. Again, starting in a couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer, 2.5 weeks, we'll start giving away to all-access members only merch, which I've ordered. It's available now. There's going to be great big 20-ounce Shadow at Night mugs, and then we've got some T-shirts in black, white, and a cool teal color. And they're not going to be for sale, at least for the first few months. We're going to give them away exclusively to all access pass holders at shadowdavis.com. On the extension tonight, why Trump really wants Canada. And a great movie trailer has come out from chd.tv. This is Children's Health Defense. It is called Never Again. And we're going to watch at least 4 minutes of that tonight on the extension. So all access members, get ready to rock and roll. Thanks, you guys, for being here tonight. I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. Have I said that I love you all and I appreciate you all yet? If not, there you go. I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Bye for now.